Hello and welcome to another episode of AskPb. We have talked about the importance of car insurance. We have talked about what kind of add-ons you should get. Today, we will talk about how you can reduce your premium based on your usage through Pay As You Drive. We will also talk about what you can do to make sure that your cars are extra secure during the monsoon season. To talk about all of this in detail, we have with us today Nitin Kumar, Head of Motor Insurance at Policybazaar.com. Welcome to the show, Nitin.
Thank you.
Nitin, today I've heard it's possible to even customize your car insurance. Can you tell me as a user, how can we do that?
Yeah. So there was a time when somebody used to renew their car insurance policy. At that time, you have to go with whatever the renewal notice has come. So for example, whatever you bought with the IDV, you cannot change your IDV. If you had add-ons in your previous policy, you cannot change your add-ons. You cannot add, you cannot delete your add-ons. But today, everything is possible. If you come to a digital platform like Policybazaar, you can actually change your IDV to reduce your premium. You can have more add-ons, you can add, you can remove the add-ons, and basis your requirement, you can customize your policy.
Now let's say that I own a car, but I let my friend drive it, and then there's an insurance claim. How will that work?
So thing is, when you buy a car insurance, you are insuring the car. So anyone who has a valid driving license can use that car. So in case of a claim, if your friend is driving or your family members are driving, there is no impact on that. Only thing which is required is that whosoever is driving the car needs to have a valid driving license.
We've also heard a lot about this new feature called Pay As You Drive. Can you tell us all about Pay As You Drive?
So yeah, so it's an interesting concept which has been brought in a couple of years back, and thanks to INJA, which allowed basically launching of usage-based car insurance. So Pay As You Drive is a version of a usage-based car insurance. Typically, when you buy a car insurance policy, you are insuring your car for a limited number of kilometers. But if we see on an average 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers is what a usual driver drives a car in a year. So when you are paying a unlimited kilometer policy and you are not using it, you end up spending way more money. So if somebody's driving behavior or driving requirement is much lesser than 7,000 to 8,000 also, they can actually reduce their premium by having a kilometer based plan. So there are multiple options which are available. You can buy a 2,500 kilometer plan, 5,000, 7,500, 10,000. So basis your requirement, you can buy the plan.
That's very interesting. And in Pay As You Drive, how is the premium calculated? What is the data that is used?
So when you buy a regular policy, you are basically going for unlimited kilometer. But in Pay As You Drive, there are multiple options are available. So for example, let's say you bought a regular policy, a standalone own damage policy for 20,000 rupees. Depending on how many kilometers you are going to buy, there are different discounts which are available over and above this. Majority of the insurance companies offers somewhere around 40-45% extra discount over the existing premium for a Pay As You Drive smallest kilometer package. So that means if you are buying a 2,500 kilometer plan and if you are paying 20,000 rupees for a full cover, with 2,500 kilometer plan, you will end up paying only 12,000 rupees.
Okay.
If you go for a 5,500 kilometer plan, this will be 14,000 rupees. So we are talking about almost 6,000, 8,000 rupees saving depending on what kilometer plan you choose.
And is this plan available across insurers?
Not all insurance companies are offering. On our platform, around 4-5 insurance companies are offering. But with this new master circular which has recently been launched by INJA, all insurance companies as a base cover has to offer this product.
Wow.
So in coming future, we hope that every insurance companies or more options will be available for customers to choose from.
So Nitin, if someone is looking at buying Pay As You Drive, how do they decide if they have the right policy?
So it's like if somebody has to decide. So there are few factors which I would recommend that somebody should take into account Pay As You Drive as an option for them. So for example, let's say if you have multiple cars in the house, there will be a primary car, there will be a secondary car. We all know that secondary car is not often used. It is mostly used for very limited purpose. For some customers, it might be just for dropping kids to school. For some people, it might be just used for going to the market. Or it is occasionally be used over the weekend. So the secondary car or the car which is not being used very oftenly is basically a good use case for customers to take into account a Pay As You Drive plan option.
Makes a lot of sense. And if someone has a Pay As You Drive plan, how can they track their usage and how it affects their premium?
Let's say you have driven your car 50,000 kilometers in the last 5 years. So on an average, you have been driving your car 10,000 kilometers a year. But now when you have bought another car or your usage of this car is not much, you may end up or you may decide to buy a 5,000 kilometer plan. So technically this 5,000 kilometer would suffice the requirement. Now what happens is if you end up exhausting those kilometers way before the year end, you always have an option to basically top up this plan as well. Okay. So you can buy top up in 500 kilometer, 1000 kilometer, and multiple options are available in the market.
Okay. So that's all the information we need about Pay As You Drive. Can you also tell me that since monsoon is approaching, what kind of features should one be looking for in their car insurance policy?
So as we all know that a comprehensive cover covers for the damages to the car, but there are certain add-ons which basically augments the features of these policy. The most common one is the zero dep cover, which basically provides you waiver against the depreciation which happens on the car. So as the car gets older, the depreciation value goes up. It starts from 10%, it goes all the way to 50%. So for example, let's say after 5 years the depreciation is 50%. You met with the accident and the claim is of 50,000 rupees and it was all a parts replacement. In that event, if you have a standard cover only, insurance company will offer you only 25,000. 25,000 amount you have to pay from your pocket. But if you have a zero depreciation cover, in entirety the entire amount will be covered. Besides zero dep cover, there are other important covers like consumables are there, and taking into account monsoon, consumables is actually a very good cover to have. So if there is a water ingression or some parts got damaged which are not covered in a regular policy, it's like your engine oil, your coolant, your brake fluid, all these are parts of consumable, they are considered under consumables. All these also gets covered if you have a consumable cover. Another important cover, a very important cover, I would say is the engine protector. We see a lot of cases in which the car gets flooded, the water goes inside the engines and accidentally people end up starting their cars. In that event what happens is you basically end up damaging your car. A standard policy even with the ZD is not going to cover for engine damages in such scenarios, and that's why engine protector comes handy for such scenarios. So we know engine is basically the heart of the car. Any damages to the engine can put a substantial burden on your pocket. Engine repair can run into lakhs of rupees. So for a 4-5,000 rupees amount of engine protector, you can actually safeguard against those very heavy risk.
And before we move on to the next section, which is the audience questions, can you sum this all up for us and help our users understand that if they are buying car insurance, what all should they keep in mind and what are the best practices to make sure that their claim goes through without any hassles?
So it's always important to know that what IDV you are buying. Are you sufficiently covered or not? If you reduce your, one way is you can reduce your IDV to reduce on the premium. But if your car goes for a total loss or a theft case, it is the sum insured or the IDV which basically gets paid back to the customer from the insurance company. So one has to basically smartly pay on that. So you should not reduce artificially very low IDV as well. Second thing is always declare things facts. So what is your correct NCB? What were the add-ons in the previous policy? One should declare very frankly all these things to the insurance company so that you can buy a correct policy. And if there is a falsification which happens, only that leads to a rejection on the claims. If there is no falsification, everything goes through.
Nitin, thank you for all your inputs, all your time. I'm sure it would be very helpful to all our viewers.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Now it's time for our audience questions.
Sure.
So our first question is from Anisha. She says that if I already have a comprehensive insurance policy, do I still need INJA cover protection?
Yes, as I mentioned, if you are living in an area which gets flooded very oftenly, it's important to have this cover because it provides end-to-end cover for your engine, which is basically the heart of your car.
Sure. Our next question is from Mihitesh. He says that how does roadside assistance work? How do I make sure that I'm getting most out of roadside assistance while buying insurance?
Roadside assistance is an important cover. There are certain scenarios when you run out of fuel. Let's say you have a flat tire. Let's say you have your battery is down. In all these cases, the roadside assistance come in handy to basically provide you assistance wherever you are in such tough times.
So we have one more question from Madhu. She says that if she hasn't bought zero depreciation cover or engine protection cover while buying the policy, can this be added at the time of renewal?
So if you have not bought these covers in your existing policy, yes, there is an option available. When you renew your policies in the second year, you can actually add these covers. Majority of the insurance companies are already offering this. It was not possible in the past, but today it is available. All you have to do is go for an inspection of your car before buying these covers and you can add these covers.
Thank you once again, Nitin. And audience, if you still have any questions at all, just leave a comment in the section below and we'll make sure that we take it up in the next session.